right jacket.
Oh, well.
Good morning. Welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission's administrative meeting for September 8th, 2021. At this very moment at 10 a.m., the Zhenhua 24, which is a Hong Kong-based cargo vessel, is passing under the Bay Bridge. Traffic to the Bay Bridge is now suspended. It will be delivering 4 mega-sized cranes to the Port of Baltimore under the supervision and vessel navigation of the rate-regulated Maryland PSC Maryland pilots. So it's a sight to be seen. In about 2 hours, it'll pass from under the Bay Bridge to under the Key Bridge. And it shows that Maryland is open for business. I'm glad that PSC has one small connection to this arrival of these cranes later on this morning. We do have...
It's a very uplifting message, Mr. Chairman.
At these times, Commissioner O'Donnell, yes, whatever positive message we could take, we'll take. And for those who haven't seen this cargo vessel, which has been anchored off of Annapolis for the past few days, waiting for the perfect low tide, it's a sight to behold. We'll begin with approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting on September the 1st, 2021. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting minutes are approved. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. There are 5 items on today's consent agenda. Item number 1 is a request from KC Brighton LLC for certification of a renewable energy facility. Item number 2 is an application from Unity National LLC for operating authority to provide facilities-based local exchange telecommunication services. Item number 3 is a notice from Great American Insurance of cancellation of bond for Energy Enablement LLC. Item number 4 is an application for a license to supply natural gas in the state from Downing Place LLC. And item number 5 is also an application for a license to supply natural gas from Premier Marketing LLC.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have questions on the consent agenda? Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to ask a question about the nature of a 400 kW or 0.4 megawatt hydro facility is. This facility. Describe it for.
Good morning.
Like, oh, I'm sorry. Good morning, Mr. Zhang. And it looks like we have the applicant here as well.
Yes, if the applicant would like to respond to this, I would defer to them first.
Okay, I'm sorry. Could the person who asked the question, this is Ian Clark. I manage KC Brighton, and I heard some of the question, but it got a little bit muted, I think. Could you repeat it again, if you don't mind?
And Commissioner O'Donnell, I understand we're having a technical issue with the mic. Maybe if you pull that mic closer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me now, Mr. Clark?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, so the question is, just describe this facility. It seems like a rather small hydro facility and relatively small. So I'm not familiar with it. So for my own edification, I wanted to explore what is this facility? Please describe.
Sure. So KC Brighton's a 400 kilowatt facility. It's located in Howard County at the Brighton Dam. And basically, we assist the Washington Sanitary Commission with regulating the height of the reservoir by turning on and off our pumps. And as a result, we also produce renewable power alongside that. So we work side by side with WSSC to make sure that the dam has all the proper level controls. We also provide some security functions to them, feedback to them. We act as the point person for the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission whenever they need information or data collected from them. And generally, we just try to be a good citizen of Maryland, keep jobs in town, keep jobs in place. We hire local contractors, and we're currently in the midst of negotiating a power purchase agreement with a government entity in Maryland. So we want to basically continue to offer renewable power to the state of Maryland, continue to grow jobs in the state of Maryland as we look to upgrade the facility, as we look to build it out, and as we look to optimize it so that hopefully over the next 30 or 40 years, we can keep investing in it and take our power up and up each year.
Very good. I appreciate that. When I read 400 kW or 0.4 megawatts, I was just, I think larger facilities hydro wise, and so I appreciate that. I appreciate knowing what it is. Are you dispatchable? Are you a dispatchable generator by PJM or?
So as of right now, we basically operate in the real-time market. So, but we do have group net metering status. So we're dispatchable depending on your definition of dispatchable, as far as we can turn on the units and turn off the units to create power or not create power. But as far as dispatchable, as far as PJM is concerned, we are not. We would be considered a group net metering facility. And it's up to us to control when we do run and when we do not run.
I appreciate that. I think that's part of what tripped me up, because it was behind the meter. The buck sheet referred to behind the meter.
Yep.
And so I was tripped up by that a little bit. So thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Seeing no additional questions on the consent agenda items, I would move that with respect to item number 1, that we approve KC Brighton's application and issue a renewable facility ID certification number, direct KC Brighton LLC to establish a REC account with PJM GATS within 30 days of certification, and file an on-site and behind-the-meter generation report with the Commission within 1 week of each recording of generation data with GATS, and direct KC Brighton LLC to notify the Commission within 30 days if the information on which the application is based should change. With respect to item number 2, I move that we grant the requested authority on the condition that the company file a clean copy of its tariff with its rate specified in the tariff before beginning operations in Maryland, and grant the company the requested COMAR waivers for local exchange service providers, formerly known as Waiver Group C. With respect to item number 3, I move that we cancel Great American Insurance's electricity and natural gas supplier licenses. With respect to the 2 separate applicants in items number 4 and 5, I move that we grant the respective companies a license to operate as a natural gas supplier in Maryland, limited to broker services for the customer classes and service territories applied for and recommended by staff, and direct the respective companies to provide marketing materials specific to its Maryland operations to the Commission staff 30 days prior to utilization of the materials in Maryland. And finally, direct the respective companies to file notice with the Commission within 30 days of any changes to the information in its application. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motions are approved. Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, item number 6 on today's administrative agenda consists of tariff revisions from Southern Maryland Electric Cooperative, Inc. To reflect change tariff language regarding service connections. On this item, for staff, we have Anna Joy Harris and Jim Greger, and for SMECO, Mark McDougall, Eugene Bradford, Lazel Rory, and Adam Mirswa.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Harris.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, can you see me?
And we could see you.
Okay, can't see myself. I'm glad you can see me. Okay, good morning. Anna Joy Harris on behalf of staff. On December 1st, 2020, the Southern Maryland Electric Cooperative filed revised tariff pages to simplify language and update service connection fees, calculating single-family home connections using a linear regression approach and townhouse and multifamily dwelling connections using an averaging approach. Following numerous conversations with staff, SMECO filed a revised proposal on June 2021, which calculated connection fees for both single-family and multifamily homes using a 5-year average with outliers removed. This results in a service connection fee for detached single-family homes of $1,888 for connections with an estimated cost of $6,593 or less. For connections with an estimated cost of greater than $6,593, the applicant pays the flat rate of $1,888 plus the estimated cost above $6,593. For townhouse or multifamily structured, the proposed service connection fee is $730 per unit. Furthermore, SMECO is proposing a conduit discount of $886 applied in cases where conduit is installed by the applicant. Staff recommended that the company remove outliers, defined as connections with costs that are above 2 standard deviations from the mean, prior to calculating the discount rate. SMECO agreed to staff's suggestion and recalculated the conduit discount at $873. Staff has verified the company's calculations and recommends that the Commission accept the proposed standard charge of $1,888 paired with a threshold rate of $6,593 for all single-family home connections. The revised conduit discount rate of $873 in cases where the applicant installs conduit, and the proposed charge of $730 per unit for townhouse and multifamily home connections. Additionally, staff has reviewed the company's proposed tariff language changes and recommends that the Commission accept the changes. In conclusion, staff recommends that the Commission accept the revised tariff pages for filing as modified by staff with an effective date of September 1st, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. We'll now turn to counsel for Southern Maryland.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This is Mark McDougall on behalf of SMECO. As Ms. Harris, or maybe I guess it was the Executive Secretary said, with me today is Adam Mirzwa, SMECO's Director of Distribution Engineering, Zeo Rory, SMECO's Economic Services Director, and Eugene Bradford, SMECO's Vice President of Rates and Economic Studies. First of all, I want to commend staff for its very complete analysis of the proposals that SMECO has proffered before the Commission. I think they did a very nice job, and we agree with their recommendation regarding the conduit discount and support their recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now turn to the commissioners if they have questions on item number 6. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Thank you. Let me start with staff. Ms. Harris, this item was filed by SMECO by the cooperative on December 1st, 2020. We're a full 9 months plus past that, and so I'm wondering what has been the difficulty with this issue.
Yeah, great question. It has been a few months. So SMECO, as I mentioned in my comments, first filed this using a linear regression approach to determine the rates for multifamily homes. Linear regressions analyze the relationship between 2 variables. And in this case, they were using the variables total cost and length. As we show in staff comments on page number 7, the relationship between length and cost is not strong, meaning that length is not a cost driver. Therefore, the linear regression approach just wasn't a great way to determine the rates. And so we met with SMECO, brought this to their attention, and I believe they met with their constituents and decided to not necessarily withdraw the filing, but put it on pause, reevaluate, get more complete data because we were coming up on the end of the year, so they were able to get another year's worth of data, and then refile. So we weren't actively working on this the entire time. There's a period of time where the company essentially hit pause on it and then refiled again later with an updated filing.
So I asked the question not to highlight necessarily how long it's been here, but maybe to ferret out the difficulty that this particular tariff matter has had for a long time, for many, many years, it appears to me, going back to 2005. So I can barely remember 2005, although I know it passed. So let me ask this. Case 9115 went to the hearing examiner division, which was a precursor and part of the Pooley Public Utility Law Judge Division. And that case, as I read the buck sheet, was kind of tortured and batted back and forth and had some decisions, but in the end, the result of that case was inconclusive. Can you enlighten me at all? I know it was a long time ago, but kind of give some history at all on that?
Yes, so this definitely predates my time here at the commission. And this was a fun mystery to look into, just what exactly happened here. So yes, it does, based on my research, and I did touch base with the company and the analysts who were involved in this at the commission, it does appear as though it went to the hearing examiner. The hearing examiner approved of the method they were using, and then the commission stepped in and were just a bit wary of the decision that was being made. They didn't necessarily want to approve of the linear regression model in lieu of an averaging approach without having more detailed discussion about it. And it was at that point where they essentially said, we're not going to accept this. We want to look into it further. That something happened and the case seems to have gotten dropped. And so the hearing examiner order wasn't accepted, but no commission order was ever issued following that.
If I might, Commissioner O'Donnell, I'm one of the few people on this call today who happen to be involved with this case back in the day. Ms. Harris is correct that that the commission took some exception with the hearing examiner's order and the use of the regression analysis. The case started out as case number 9065. That case was terminated after the proposed order of hearing examiner became final, but the commission instituted a new case, case 9115, to really look at the same issues. The hearing examiner came out with an order. SMECO filed a memorandum on appeal, and that's really where the case sat and has sat now for I guess it's been 13 years. So we're kind of looking at this now with a fresh eye. When I say we, I'm talking to staff and SMECO, but we're still following the commission's guidance and staff's preference of using the averaging method rather than the regression analysis. And we think it's in accord with all the commission decisions to date.
I appreciate that. I noted that Ms. Harris alluded to meetings with constituencies. Can you talk about that a little bit, Mr. McDougall? Who are these constituencies that you met with, and talk about what that was?
I was not privy to those conversations. I'd like to, I guess, turn it over to Mr. Mirzwa, who is SMECO's Director of Distribution Engineering, and maybe he can address your question.
Mr. Mirzwa, it appears you're muted.
Excuse me, do you got?
Now we got you.
Okay, there we go. Good morning, commissioners. I hope you guys can hear me.
I can
Can you
hear
guys hear
you.
me? Okay, great. Back in 2019, 2020, we did have preliminary discussions with MBIA, Maryland Business Builders Association, to discuss about our implementation of a conduit environment within our developments. During that discussion, we discussed with MBIA on how to provide a favorable financial approach to the developments that do require conduit installation throughout the entire subdivision. That conduit installation is done by the developer. And that's where a lot of the adjustment to the tariff language has occurred. And that's why we have a conduit discount. In addition, one of the language that was removed was the closest corner language, which now allows the developers to forecast their costs initially on the layout of the development, not have a uncertainty from SMETCO on what the cost might be for the houses or the connections.
And can you characterize SMBIA's position with regard to these tariff changes, or do we have a representative from the Building Industry Association with us today who can characterize that? Apparently we don't. Mr. Mirzwa, any characterization of their feelings on this?
We do not have their most recent characterization on this adjustment.
Would it be fair to say there's been some controversies with the Building Industry Association and SMECO's underground conduit tariffs in recent history, much more recent than this case?
There has been, but when we look at the adjustment to the rate, we feel that now, based on what the current rate is and to the adjusted rate, it'll be much more favorable to the industry than least favorable.
Mr. McDougall, let me ask you this: this may be obvious, but is there a timeliness component to this? Obviously, it's been filed in the commission on September 1st, 2020. So obviously, it's been with us for a while, and this case has a long and tortured history. Obviously, is there a timeliness component to this instant filing?
Commissioner O'Donnell, I don't believe that there's a timeliness issue at this point. As Ms. Harris mentioned, because of the movement of time from December 2020 to our second filing in June of 2021, we were able to update the data that we used in the computations from the 5-year period 2015 through 2019 to one beginning in 2016 and running through 2020. So the delay from the initial December filing did have the advantage of our being able to update the numbers.
Fair enough. I guess I would lastly ask, Mr. Chairman, if any party would have an objection to delaying this action on this item so that this commission can have a fuller understanding of the impact in the communities that I live in, and this, when I hear linear regressions, I'm sorry, I don't necessarily connect to that emotionally right away. So would anybody object to me taking a deeper dive into the history of this and figuring out what this all is, and getting some advice maybe from an advisor?
The company has no objection, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that unless anyone, I'd like any other questions to be asked, but if not, that we delay this for a future AM.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me ask a question of council, either Mr. McDougall or Mr. Gregor. Is there any need to accommodate additional time to suspend the current tariff?
I'm not sure I understand exactly where you're headed, Mr. Chairman. Can you?
No, well, I noticed that well, there was an effective date of September 1st, 2021. Obviously, it's now September 8th. I was just curious if there's any problem with suspending the tariff at this point.
So, from the company standpoint, since the commission at least would like to take a more in-depth look at the history behind this filing, we don't mind pushing off the effective date to a later date so that the commission can become familiar with the history of this case and make that effective date later in time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McDougall. I just wanted to double check that, and we could move the effective date to the date that the commission disposes this matter. Do the other commissioners have questions on this item?
Just
Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. I just have one question for the company. It's regarding your response to staff's data request, item number 17, regarding your proposal to change the or remove the term extensions and replace it with service connections. I see it in your response. You noted that there's no change being served, no change to the service being received by the applicants. I just wanted to clarify, are you proposing to remove the word extensions throughout the entire tariff, or is it just for a particular section?
I don't know whether Ms. Rory or Mr. Bradford, who seems to be the experts on the extension language, can speak to that.
Good morning. This is Eugene Bradford. We made the change to, as it said in the answer to the data response, because the term service connection was a defined term in the tariff, and we felt that made the language clearer. And we did go through and replace extensions of service connections throughout the tariff there. But I don't know for sure that we have removed the term extension entirely throughout our total service tariff. I'd have to go back and make a check on that to see if that's the case. But throughout the this part of the year, we did go through and make that change.
Okay, you were breaking up a little bit, but that could be on our end. But I just to clarify, it sounded like you said you intended to replace the word extensions with service connections only in certain portions of the tariff, but not necessarily the entire tariff. Did I hear correctly?
I believe we left word extensions in the tariff in a couple of places. Yes, sir.
Okay, so all right, so if you're going to have both words then in the tariff, is the tariff going to provide a definition to help explain the difference between the two? I mean, I guess let me just clarify my concern first. If you were just doing a swap of the words throughout the tariff, then that's fine. Then it's just a matter of making certain that the public understands what the new word means. And of course, it means the same thing as the old word, so that's fine. But if you're going to introduce a new term and the old term is still there, now we've got an issue of, I'm sorry. All right, was someone? I thought I heard, did I hear someone? Oh, I just wanted to make sure that that if we're introducing a new term and we're keeping the old term in certain sections and introducing a new term in certain sections, that we are clear as to the distinction between the two terms. So that's all. I'm not trying to say it's not a good idea or anything, but I just don't, from the response, I didn't quite understand what you were attempting to do here.
Commissioner Linton, this is Mark McDougall. Let me just commit to you that we will go through our entire tariff in short order and see whether there is any distinction between extensions and service connections. And if there is a distinction, I take it that we should, at that point, define extensions since we've defined service connections, and so that the public would know the difference between the two. And if there is no difference between the two, we'll simply eliminate the word extensions and replace it with service connections with a filing with the commission in order to change our tariff.
That's fine. And thank you very much, Mr. McDougall. Mr. Chairman, I have no other questions.
Thank you. Seeing no additional questions, we will hold this item over until September 29th, 3 weeks from today. Mr. Secretary, if we could schedule that for that administrative meeting.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Item number 7 on today's agenda is an errata filing from Delmarva Power and Light Company to its August 13, 2020 compliance filing to include additional tariff language. On this item for staff, we again have Anna Joy Harris and Michael Dean, and for Delmarva, Doug McKeel and Michael Normand.
Good morning, Ms. Harris.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Anna Joy Harris on behalf of staff. On July 28th, 2021, Delmarva Power and Light Company filed errata to update tariff language concerning the company's conduit policy that had been inadvertently omitted from the compliance filing in case number 9630. The updated language reflects an agreement reached by staff and the company during cross-examination that was approved by the Public Utility Law Judge and affirmed by the Commission in Order Number 89576. The proposed tariff revisions do not contain any rates or charges. Staff reviewed Delmarva's errata and found that they comport with the Commission's order. Staff recommends that the Commission accept the revised tariff pages for filing with an effective date of September 1st, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything additional from the company, Delmarva? Good morning.
No, Mr. Chairman. Doug McKeel on behalf of Delmarva Power. I appreciate Ms. Harris's rendition. Her facts are spot on.
Thank you. Do commissioners have questions? Seeing none, I would move that we accept the tariff revisions for filing and direct Delmarva to file clean copies of its tariff revisions with an effective date of September 1st, 2021. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Item number 8 on today's agenda is BGE's 2021 STRIDE semi-annual report. For this item for staff, we have Kobe Aniam and Michael Dean. For the company, Colin Tidings, Kevin Nelson, Daniel Marcus, Theodore Reed, John Frayne, and Jessica Raba.
Good morning, Kobe.
Morning. Next thing here. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Kobe Aniam on behalf of Commission staff. On August 2nd, 2021, BGE submitted its STRIDE semi-annual report to give an update on the progress of projects approved by the Commission. On December 2nd, 2020, BGE reports good progress on its 2021 STRIDE project list in the first half of the year, notwithstanding lingering COVID-19 impacts and nationwide labor shortage and disruption to the fiscal supply chains. Staff has reviewed BGE's semi-annual filing and provides the following analysis. For cast iron main, the company abandoned 10.20 miles out of a projected 50 miles. That represents 20.4% of projected work. For bare steel main, the company has abandoned 0.05 miles of a projected 1.3 miles. For coated steel, the company abandoned 2.3 miles out of a projected 5.5. For plastic main, the company abandoned 0.8 miles out of a projected 2.2 miles. The total main abandonment was projected to be 59 miles. The company has abandoned 13.3 miles. On 3/4 inch pre-1970 high pressure steel services, BGE proposed to replace 5,500 of these services. The total replacement of this asset currently stands at 3,028. That's 55% of the projected work. BGE proposed to replace 5,943 services through the Operation Pipeline Program. The company replacement of these services currently is 1,687. That is 28% of the projected work. The company is yet to commence work on the 3 projects that the Commission approved on June 16, 2021. That is Cadensville Phase 11, Lansdowne Phase 3, and Union Square Phase 1. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. We'll turn to representatives from BGE.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Jessica Raba on behalf of BGE.
I'm filling in for Mr. Herson today. While I am no substitute for him, as the executive secretary mentioned, I do have several members of the team here with me to help answer any technical questions if you have them. Thanks to staff for their review and recommendation. I don't have any comments. I did just want to respond briefly to one point that staff raised in their written comments and this morning. And that's with regard to the 3 projects that were added to the 2021 project list. Staff noted that we have yet to commence work on those 3 projects. It's true that we did not report any work completed, but that was just a function of the reporting period. We received approval for those 3 projects on June 23rd, and this report runs through June 30th. So 1 week just simply wasn't enough time for us to complete work. But we have since started work, and in fact, one of those projects is scheduled to be completed within the next few days. So with that, we're available for any other questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Reba. Commissioner O'Donnell.
I'll defer to Commissioner Herman if she has a question.
Commissioner
I
Herman.
do. Thank you. Ms. Reba, or I think that's Mr. Frayne. I'm not sure. There he is. Looking a little different today. I just wanted to make sure, based on the numbers as of June, we had quite a few categories where we're not at 50% in the time period. So I just really wanted to ask BGE, do you plan to meet the expectations and your projections for 2021?
Thanks, Commissioner Herman. I think first, it's not unusual historically for us to be below 50% at the mid-year mark. A lot of this work, for various reasons, tends to be backloaded in the second half of the year. That said, we have tried to be transparent about the fact that we are dealing with a lot of the same issues that industries across the country are dealing with right now as a fallout from this pandemic. As we've told you before, that involves qualified labor resource shortages, supply chain issues, issues obtaining materials we need to complete the work on time. So we are doing our best to keep qualified resources engaged and complete work as efficiently as we can with the resources available. But you're right, we are a little behind. And I think if we were being honest, we would say we wouldn't be surprised if we fell short of our full projections at the end of this year. But, we just don't know exactly at this point where it will land.
Okay, I just wanted to, make sure that, we're all managing expectations here. And if you're saying that you wouldn't be surprised if you fell a bit short, that's good for us to know, so that when we look at the total numbers for 2021, you haven't said, oh, absolutely, we're going to make it, and then you don't. So I appreciate that, Ms. Reba. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. I have a question regarding your the filing you made regarding the variances expenses for 5 different projects. But in particular, I'm interested in Shipley and South Baltimore. In each of those, you reference the Baltimore City 6-hour work restriction. I think we've heard before and from you in prior proceedings on STRIDE that matter has now been addressed. Is that fair to say?
Thanks, Commissioner Linton. I think that is fair to say. And if I understand the way this report works, I think you're seeing this pop up now because these projects have now been completed. So this piece of the report is on variances specifically on projects that have been completed. So they've been around a while and were delayed for that reason. But we're reporting that was the reason for the delay, but now they are complete.
All right. Do you have additional projects that have been impacted by the 6-hour restriction? that haven't shown up on our report yet? Maybe you're still working on them or something.
Jessica, if I could.
Yeah, thanks. So Kevin Nelson is going to jump in on that one.
Hi, good morning, Kevin Nelson for BGE. So as Jessica correctly pointed, this is really a timing function, Commissioner, that these projects have been mechanically complete for some time. We now have completed paving. We're doing our final report out to the commission. The relationship with the city right now for traffic, restrictions, I would say is pretty positive and collaborative. There's no ongoing issue. I would have to review the list in detail to provide an explicit answer to your question. I can't promise that there isn't one lingering out there that will do this variance analysis on a future filing, but largely the issue is behind us, and we're executing with respect to traffic management, I think, in a pretty good place with the city. Does that answer your question, sir?
It does. Thank you very much. And that's all the questions that I had. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No question, just a little bit of commentary. So the commission is normally not in the business of offering thanks or not congratulations, but saying good job in our proceedings and or in our meetings or writings. However, I wanted to take a point of personal privilege to say I was in the legislature when STRIDE was created, and this what BG&E is doing, in my opinion, it may not be perfect, but is exactly what the legislature intended with regard to improving safety and improving infrastructure in a way that helps the environment, reduces leaks. It may not always be easy to implement with regard to dealing with traffic control, as we've heard, or excavations and or repaving and or even aesthetics with the customers, because some of these installations require new pieces of equipment that customers may not necessarily appreciate. And so we're aware of that. I'm certainly aware of it. But some of these improvements may end up saving lives. And that's not hyperbole, that's real. We know what happened in Andover, North Andover, and Lawrence, Massachusetts, and it ended up bankrupting a utility. It cost the citizens their lives. There were over 80 buildings that were destroyed, and people were injured, maybe a couple dozen other people injured. And this is serious upgrade work, and I wanted to say, Mr. Chairman, thank you to the utility, because I think they're taking it very seriously.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that, I would move that we note the filing. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman,
Aye.
Commissioner Linton,
Aye.
and Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 9 is a request from Forefront Power LLC and Forefront Power One LLC for a waiver of the operational deadline to begin commercial operations at their Middletown Road Community Solar Project. On this item for staff, we have Annette Garofalo and Catherine Mackerlane. The companies Eric Wallace, Kelsey Crane, Christian Schlesinger, Matt Grossman, Eric Chodnicki, and Mitch Kelman.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Garofalo.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Annette Garofalo on behalf of Commission staff. Forefront Power is requesting the Commission waive its operational deadline under COMAR 20-620304C from July 18, 2021 to September 15, 2022, as applicable to applicants' Middletown Road Community Solar Energy Generating Station project in Baltimore County. Applicant's project is 1.9 megawatts of open capacity in the Baltimore Gas and Electric Company service territory. The Middletown Road project was accepted into the Community Solar Program on August 14, 2017, which was year 1 of the Community Solar Pilot Program. And as a result, its operational deadline was originally February 14, 2019. The history of Forefront projects, permitting, building, and ownership is contained in staff's comments and of course in Forefront's comments as well. Forefront is seeking an additional 15-month extension to accommodate the remaining permitting and construction of the Middletown Road generating station. The requested waiver would extend the current operational deadline and take account of applicants' previous legal challenge and previous extension. A prospective timeline accompanies Forefront's application, indicating that permitting is expected to extend through the end of November 2021, followed by design and final building permitting by the end of February 2022, the beginning of construction in April 2022, and the beginning of commercial operations in August 2022. Applicant is requesting an additional 6 weeks in its waiver request as a buffer to guard against any unforeseen delay. Staff has reviewed the filing and recommends the commission grant the waiver, inclusive of the temporary waiver sought on July 9th, 2021, requested by Forefront Power and Forefront Power One LLC.
Thank you. We'll turn to counsel for Forefront Power LLC and Forefront Power One LLC.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. This is Eric Wallace with Green Herlocker here on behalf of Forefront. I appreciate staff's investigation of this and the recommendation that the extension be granted. There's a lot of history to this project that's detailed in our filing and in staff's buck sheet. And there have been a lot of challenges in terms of most recently in the permitting processes. So we tried to lay out a very clear picture of where we've been since the last time the company came in for an extension on this project, and then what our timeline is going forward that's going to get us to the commercial operation for this 1.9 megawatt facility in the BGE service territory. We have a team here from Forefront, as well as we have Eric Chodnicki and Mitch Kelman from Daft McCune Walker, which is the site civil engineering firm that's leading up the design and the civil engineering and permitting processes for the applicant. We're happy to answer any questions that Chairman and Commissioners have. I had one modification I wanted to make, or one clarification. In the staff buck sheet, the entities are listed as Forefront Power LLC and Forefront Power One LLC. And in our application, the Forefront Power LLC is the correct entity, but the second one is FFP MD Freeland Project One LLC. And that's the entity that has a subscriber organization license with the commission for this project. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Do commissioners have questions on this item? Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Ms. Garofalo.
Morning, Commissioner.
How many different deadlines do we have associated with the CSEGS program? Is it just the operating deadline, or is there a construction deadline, or is there any other, just the operating deadline?
There is the operating deadline, which can be extended under the regulations, and as I'm sure you remember, it began to be at 12 months plus 6 months, and now it's 2 years plus 1 year. So someone applying today would have 3 years to build their CSEG station.
Right, but just the operational deadline, no other construction or any other.
There's nothing specific. You may waive any regulations, so that could affect something, but it is only the operational deadline.
Of course, yeah. No, I appreciate that. Do you know if the commission has ever, well, let me ask this. What happens if the commission doesn't waive an operational deadline? What is the remedy? What does the COMAR require if we don't?
It requires that the project be taken out of the queue, and it could not be built as such. It could apply to the queue again and begin the clock over. There might be some problems that would make that not work out, but that would be the remedy.
And do you know if the commission has ever exercised that, denied a waiver, and made the removal of the project from the electric company's queue an operation? Have we ever done that?
I don't believe so.
I suspected not. And that's why in my mind, I question, Mr. Chairman, why we even have deadlines. Because we've never denied a waiver request. And we've seen all manner of excuses, some of them valid, maybe all of them valid. I don't know. It's a matter of the beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? Or the excuse efficacy is in the eye of the beholder. But I'm not sure why we have a deadline if we never hold anybody to it. And that's a rhetorical question, doesn't require an answer. But I'll be voting no on this, not because I think the company doesn't have good cause, but because I want to say that when deadlines are effectuated, maybe they should mean something. So I'm going to vote no on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Herman.
So I'd like to ask the company, I guess. There are a number of dates that were mid-June and this week in your filing, and just wondering, now it's September, do you anticipate being able to meet the requested deadline? Because I just want to make sure we're not going to be looking at this again in August of 2022, because, you know, then we're going to be hitting up against another waiver. You know, we're at some point we do have to stop. So I just wanted to get your assurance that you believe, based on what you know at this time, that you can make all of these deadlines.
Hey, Commissioner Herman, this is Eric Wallace again for the company, and that's correct. So we had a meeting yesterday internally to go over the timeline and discuss the status of how this project has moved through the timeline that we filed with our filing back in June. There have been some, you know, they are working through these items. It's an ongoing process with the county to get these things signed off on. But you know, if you look at the week of 9/7 for this week, we're on track to get the final decommissioning plan submitted. And there are some other things that are still in the works that are earlier in the schedule, but overall, we're still confident that this timeline is appropriate, and we don't see any reason why any further, you know, we didn't anticipate any further delays. And we think that this schedule, you know, given that, you know, where the project stands and the work yet to be done before we reach commercial operation date, that we're on track to meet within this deadline, and that we hold with the original request for the September 15th, 2022 extension.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. I do share Commissioner O'Donnell's frustration to some degree, and I recognize that some of these factors are outside of your control, including the sort of the speed at which the county provides you with the proper approvals. It is somewhat ironic that it only actually takes you less than 4 months to actually develop and construct the facility, although the lead up now has taken several years. From your perspective, since the PSC does not work directly with the counties, does the counties recognize the threat to your project if they do not respond in a timely manner to your request for approvals and permits?
Chairman, this is Eric Wallace again for the company. I've not had those discussions directly with the folks at the county, so I may defer to Mr. Chodnicki or Mr. Kelman, because they're kind of working day to day with the folks at the county agencies that are reviewing the permitting materials and may have some insight there.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Mitch Kelman speaking. On behalf of Daphne Kuhn Walker, again, we are the civils that are preparing all the plans that are required for county approval. It's my understanding that the county employees or the reviewers at their level do not really know or anticipate these deadlines that are required by COMAR or that go before the Public Service Commission. I just think that they get the plans, they look at them, they make comments, and they do it accordingly. I really don't think that, again, I really don't think that they understand the deadlines that are enforced by COMAR and the Public Service Commission, because it's not really their regulation. So I don't think they're concerned with them.
Is it not then your responsibility, when I say you, the developer, to impress upon them the fact that their delays may cause this whole project and all the investment to date to disappear in a flash? You've already heard you've lost one vote from one commissioner. If you lose one more vote on a 4-member panel, this project is done.
That's understood, and I think that we do the best that we can to try to get the county to push along the reviews. But again, I think that they're really concerned with their requirements and what they're looking for.
Al, I do think it's incumbent on the developer to impress upon the threat that this project would not go forward. I can't say anybody from Baltimore County has contacted me on the record with respect to the need to develop this project, and it's not my responsibility to reach out to the county to impress upon them the need to move their permits along.
If I can offer something else, the review, I would say the approval of the first initial approval of the administrative law judge's ruling. You had that approval, and then you have an appeal period. Then it can get appealed by anybody, and it goes to the Board of Appeals. And of course, those hearings, can drag on. I mean, some of these hearings for solar facilities will last 3 or 4 days. Then zoning orders have to come out. And then once you get your approval, we were in the midst of a zoning reclassification. The quadrennial rezoning takes place every 4 years in Baltimore County. And this facility happens to be located in the 3rd Councilmatic District. The councilman in that 3rd Councilmatic District, with all due respect to him, he threatened to downzone all of the facilities that got approvals in that 3rd Councilmatic District. I think he threatened to downzone everyone with the exception of one. So that all of a sudden that pops a big delay in things. And if he's threatening to downzone these, which would kill the project, I don't really think that he's considering the deadlines of COMAR. I mean, these deadlines may actually help him with his downzoning process. So that's just an example of, I don't think that the councilman, with all due respect, is really considering deadlines that are enforced by COMAR or the Public Service Commission.
Well, at the end of the day, I suspect Forefront has a team of lawyers, and Mr. Wallace is familiar with Annapolis in case the laws need to be changed again. But the commission has extended these deadlines as discussed by Ms. Garofalo, where you now have 3 years to build a project that should take 4 months. And while there are other bureaucracies outside of your control, I do not get the sense that that the developers are using all the levers to move these projects along timely. And I would say I'm going to support the waiver today, but I can't guarantee that the commission on this project or other unrelated projects will continue to extend deadlines ad infinitum due to delays at the county level. If I don't see the developers actually using all best efforts at the county level to get the county to move forward. Any additional comments? Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for Ms. Garofalo for the staff. Ms. Garofalo, this project came into the queue in year one. Do we know if this project were not to move forward, are there other projects behind it or in waiting that would take its place?
There would be no year one projects to my knowledge. I would have to check on the other. There are always people in the queue for subsequent years. So we have a queue built up. And I'm sure since Baltimore County is part of the BGE service territory, it has a number of things available to it, spots, kilowatt hours available to it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Garofalo. So I have a couple of questions in for the applicant. And I'll follow up and I'll ask in a different way a question that Commissioner Herman already asked. Looking at the timeline that you attached to your filing, it's attachment 1. We have 3 different expected actions from Baltimore County. So I guess I'll just ask straightforward. Have those 3 approvals as listed in the timeline you have in your attachment, have they already been accomplished?
Commissioner Linton, this is Eric Wallace again for the applicant. My understanding is that there's been some delay on the items that are listed as expected from June 28th, July 26th, and August 23rd. I would defer to Mr. Chodnicki and Mr. Kelman for the specifics on the timing and the status of those, if you wouldn't mind providing us a brief update.
Well, I guess, and before you answer, let me just give you the second half of the question then. For the week of November 28th, you have a 5th expected final approval. And so if there are delays on the first 3 from June through August, are we already looking at the possibility that the one final approval expected in November is also going to change? That's the question.
Yeah, Mr. Chodnicki, I believe that you're on mute if you're speaking now.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Eric Chodnicki.
Cannot hear you.
Can't hear me? Okay. I can speak
Yeah.
up.
Is there a way to turn that volume up?
Yeah, to get closer or speak louder if you can. Where is your microphone?
My microphone is my camera.
Okay, all right. If you could get really close, thank you.
Okay. No, not a problem. Sorry about that. We have we've out of those approvals, we have the grading, sediment erosion control, and stormwater management Mylars are all at the county. They were being held up by the minor sub approval. That minor sub, I found out this morning, is being signed by the director. And that plan being processed is the release for the other plans to follow suit. Those plans are all ready to be signed. Again, the minor sub plan was holding it up. So moving forward, I don't see a delay that may be anticipated, especially with the right-of-way agreement, which is already approved, and the environmental agreement follows suit with these plans being approved.
So thank you for that. So then, as of right now, then your anticipation is that the November 28th expected final approval is still on track?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your answers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you. Just one follow-up question. And I know I haven't asked these questions to previous developers, but notwithstanding the I would say extensive delays that you've experienced, have you brought these concerns or filed any complaints with the county executive? And if not, why not?
I have spoken with the Director of Environmental Protection and the reviewer for this project, who has been with the county for probably 30 years. The delay was really related to, as Mr. Kelman had noted, back when this was appealed and then the zoning change possible potential slowed the process down. This project also has a minor subdivision plan, which was dated 2000. That minor sub plan had to be revised and updated. That required extensive coordination with all of the departments at the county. It's about 8 different departments that sign off on that plan. So they were all made aware that we were working diligently and providing them with all the information. And it goes back to last year when the record plat was submitted as a check print, which is required for the minor sub plan as well. So we were well in advance ahead of things, but the county itself was a little bit of a slowdown, mostly from COVID also. We were not able to go and meet with them, and virtual meetings took it took a lot longer than we anticipated.
Well, obviously, COVID has thrown a wrench in the works for all things and delayed lots of projects. I do hope that you stick to your schedule next year, have this operational. If you come across a situation where you're coming back to the commission for another waiver and extension, you'll need more in terms of an excuse, at least for me, to satisfy an additional waiver. Thank you. I've had no further questions of the parties. Seeing no additional questions, I would move that we grant the waiver inclusive of the temporary waiver sought on July 9th, 2021, requested by Forefront Power LLC for the Middletown Road project. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye, but I just, for the record, want to note that I share the concerns that Commissioner O'Donnell raised. The two of us sat on a rulemaking regarding community solar just a few weeks ago. And one of the very heavily advocated changes that were made was to expand the queue so that additional projects could enter into the market in Maryland. So this is a project that's been around since year one, and we're still hoping to see it come to fruition. So I'd strongly encourage the project coordinators, the company, to, as the chairman said earlier, move the levers that are necessary to make sure that this project moves forward. Because at the end of the day, we like to see community solar made available for all of our citizens. And if projects are not collecting sun, then we're not getting there. So the deadlines have to start to matter at some point. So, but for now, for this one, it might be one of the last times I do it as a result of the rulemaking. I'd vote yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will just say that I'm fully supportive of the community solar program and the state meeting its renewable energy goals. Having said that, if we have projects that can't meet deadlines, and this one is an old one, it's year one project, at some point these projects have to get out of the way. I think that was the intention of the deadline, so that others can take their place and help us meet those goals. Having said that, I understand the frustrations in certain jurisdictions. I do appreciate that, and I'm well aware of the 3rd Councilmanic District in Baltimore County. But on principle, Mr. Chairman, I vote no.
I vote aye. On a vote of 3-1, the motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, the final item today, item number 10, is staff's report on the procurement improvement process. For staff, we have Lloyd Spivak. For BGE, we have David Bloom and Beverly Sikora. For Pepco and Delmarva, Matt Seegers and Diana Novak. For Potomac Edison, Robert Reaping, Melanie Grant, Jeffrey Trout, and Bobby Miller.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Lloyd Spivak for the Commission staff. This is this year's staff report on the annual electric standard offer service procurement improvement process, including the report itself, the utility bid plans, and the model request for proposals and supply agreements. The procurement improvement process was created by the Commission's approval of the original settlements in case 8908 way back in 2004. It is an annual process during which interested stakeholders can suggest small technical changes to Maryland SOS bidding to make the bidding work more smoothly. As is usually the case, participants in this year's process included both wholesale and retail suppliers and the affected utilities, as well as the Maryland Office of People's Counsel and Commission staff. Taken together, these documents provide the proposed framework for the upcoming SOS year's bidding. Other than the necessary schedule revisions, there were no substantive revisions to the model RFP and FSA. The stakeholders have reached agreement that the bid window for this year's bidding should be between 10:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. Eastern Prevailing Time on bid days instead of the current late afternoon window. The stakeholders also proposed that the Commission continue requiring bids to use a proxy price for the upcoming bid year. In addition, as noted in the report, the utilities have agreed to provide additional and modified load data to potential bidders. Staff recommends that the Commission note the report and approve the 2021 through 2022 SOS bid documents, including the proposed utility bid plans, the request for proposals, and the full requirement service agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Spivak. We've reviewed your report, and it seemed clear and straightforward. Seeing no questions from the commissioners, I would move that we note the report on the 2021 procurement improvement process and approve the 2021 to 2022 standard offer service bid procurement documents, including the proposed utility bid plans, the request for proposals, and the full requirements service agreement. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved. Thank you, Mr. Spivak and staff. Seeing no
Thank you.
additional business on today's administrative meeting, this meeting is now adjourned.